Om Shri Sai Ram, offering my most humble and loving salutations at the lotus feet of our beloved Lord, Bhagwan Sri Sathya Sai Baba. Dear brothers, it has been a wonderful journey taking all of us through the divine life of Avatar. Every stage of Ram's life is filled with so much grace, blessings, mysticism. Even to meditate and contemplate on each one fills you with happiness and bliss. Let us start this evening's offering with our prayer, and I request all of you to join me for the same. O Lord, take my love and let it flow in fullness of devotion to Thee. O Lord, take my hands and let them work incessantly for Thee. O Lord, take my soul and let it be merged in one with Thee. O Lord, take my mind and thoughts and let them be in tune with Thee. O Lord, take my everything and let me be an instrument to work for Thee. Om Shri Sai Ram, and welcome all of you back to this episode entitled Siddhashram. As I was mentioning, going through Bhagwan Ram's life, or so for that matter, any avatar's life, there are innumerable things that we can explore and contemplate on. Every character in Ramayana, every place in Ramayana is sacred, is filled with so much of divine grace and beauty that sometimes it appears impossible to explore or to analyze each one of them, even single one of them. And here, today we are going to explore this life, this journey of Avatar from important ashram where Avataric mission actually began, where he showed us the first glimpse of his work, and that is Siddhashram. So let us continue our tale of Ramayana where we left last time. And we know that Ram was permitted to go along with Lakshman, with sage Vishwamitra. And now they had started their journey along the banks of Ganga towards Siddhashram. And as we heard, that once they decided to leave, sage Vishwamitra gets up and he starts walking out of the city. And Ram and Lakshman both follow him barefoot. Up to the city gates, the ministers and the senior members, they follow as a protocol. And after that, their journey is alone. This is a very beautiful, expression which Bhagavan has given here, that Vishwamitra, who declares Ram to be divine, who had come knowing very well his avatarhood, yet shows an human element of reconfirmation about his avatarhood. It's like when we are in darshan and Swami does something and we are excited. And I remember I was narrating one day a story of Bhagwan to my parents, and I casually, I was narrating them that Swami cured somebody and, he resurrected somebody in front of us. And I saw others were very excited to hear the story, but my mother seemed to be very casual about it. And when I looked at her and inquiringly asked her, like, didn't you enjoy? She very matter of fact manner expressed that he's God, so what? So that, when you are established in that thought that you are in the presence of God, then these things do not make any impact on your conscious. You take it everything in a stride and you understand that, it is nature of the God to behave like that. But here we find when we go through Ramayana, even Vishwamitra, the great Brahma Rishi, is excited, and Bhagavan mentions he's sometimes happily surprised to witness the omnipresence of the Lord. So when Ram is walking with Vishwamitra, he is like a perfect student, inquiring, questioning Vishwamitra as to what is this place? What is that? Which ashram is this? And Vishwamitra loves to explain to him, tell him the story. It could also be a divine drama wherein the avatar, for the sake of humankind, wants this rishi to take the credit of sharing the secret stories behind each place and each event. It also could be to show, like where Ram also expresses when he questions Vishwamitra too often. He says, I am asking you this question so that the world could understand the thought process of a rishi behind these situations. Why does a rishi think like that? Why does a sage behave like that and act like that? Let the world get a glimpse into your mind. And for that reason, the avatar questions. So when Bhagwan Baba would ask questions to people, it was not because he didn't know the answer. It was not even, as I feel, not even because he was not sure whether you knew the answer and he was testing you. He knows us better than we can ever imagine to know ourselves. His point of question could have been multifaceted. It could be as simple as to give us a better answer, or for us to know that we know, give us the confidence that we know, or through us, let the world know that we know, and let the world get the right perspective as he expected. So there can be many reasons why Avatar questions, but in each of his act, in each of his style, there is reason and there is a divine purpose. So in this journey, the beauty is he's so overwhelmed with Ram's omnipresence in many occasions that he sits down and he confesses that Ram, since I have known you now, I have found you again. All the accomplishments that I have acquired, the arms and ammunition that I have gained and earned, the divine weaponry that I have acquired, now I do not need to hold it with me. And this I must offer. A sage who was a king, who became a Rajarishi and then Brahmarishi, did penance to acquire all that he could, all that the mankind could imagine at that time. He took all of that and offered it to Vishwamitra, sorry, to Ram. And I feel this is also a symbolic, this is also symbolic that of surrender of Vishwamitra. That in this life, sage Vishwamitra is actually offering to the Lord everything he has earned and saying, now I am done with this, accept it. So his offering of all his knowledge, of his acquisitions, is also looked at as a symbolism of his complete and full surrender to the Lord. So on the way, he stops and hands over certain weaponaries, and then he says, the more different ones I will hand over to you once we reach an ashram. Here, as I had mentioned last time, we use the term astra and shastra. Astra is divine weapon which are executed by mantras. So there are many, and today we'll look at few of them. There are many mantras, many weaponaries which are executed by mantra and which are run by the power, the will of the executor. So by the mind, thought of mind, they could even execute that weapon and withdraw the weapon. So as I was mentioning in last episode also, that today we have advanced, but still we don't have that kind of knowledge that we can shoot a weapon and withdraw it before it hits the target. So that is the beauty and the power of our mantra shakti, our of ancient rishis. So let me welcome my brother who is here, and we'll continue our conversation. Sai Ram
Sai Ram,
Raju,
Sai Ram.
welcome. So we are going through that journey had started, and I think the first destination, Raju, we are talking about the weaponaries. And last time we discussed about, Mantra Shakti, Yantra Shakti, Tantra Shakti, and Maya Shakti, the four different powers that exist, and how sage Vishwamitra had kind of accomplished all of them, but he was also trapped with the Maya Shakti of the Lord. That he kept feeling that, now I've understood Ram. That excitement of seeing an omnipresence of Ram, he was getting excited. So that's what we are mentioning. So, do you want to say anything about these powers? If anything, you recall what Bhagwan has said about.
Yes, brother. In fact, Swami beautifully talks about Yantra Shakti, Tantra Shakti, and Mantra Shakti in a very depictive manner that is very relevant for human body. He says, human body itself is a great yantra that is given, and body basically is common for any being that takes birth. So this yantra is common for all. And how do you, Swami beautifully uses the word tantra and mantra. He says, how do you control this yantra? The one that is used to control this yantra is tantra, and says that is mind. And Swami then goes on to explain in the discourse that mind is of four uh, antakarana, as Swami calls it. He has four aspects. Money first is manas, that which is meant for all the operational issues, like you're battling, you're closing the eyelids, breathing, heart is beating, then hands are moving, and various blood vessels are sucking blood up and down the body. So that operational aspect is taken care by manas. And buddhi is the next comes chitta. Chitta is the repository of all the actions, all the events that have happened over lifetimes. And Swami says that is the main issue, where over lifetimes, as we pass, each lifetime we collect certain memories, certain vasanas get deposited in chitta, and over time it kind of piles up, and that is the basis for allowing all your promptings. And uh, and buddhi chitta and buddhi, the third one is buddhi is the discrimination whether to do right, to do wrong. So most of the cases, this buddhi is determined by chitta. Chitta affects the impulses from chitta hit the buddhi, and that's how your as Duryodhana says, Janami, I know what is right, I know what is wrong, but yet there is something that is pulling me from within to not make me do the right things. And last one
Janami
is
dharmam nasme nivritti. Janami
yes,
adharmam nasme nivritti.
Natame Nivrit. Yes. And the fourth one, as Swami says, ahankara. It is the identity aspect of to feel that I am this entity, this body, this being, and that is the tantra. And Swami says, how do you control this tantra? Swami says it is easily controlled by mantra. And Swami says, what is that mantra? Mantra is the soham, that so. And I say, like, every day, every time you breathe up, breathe down, you are chanting that mantra of soham, soham, soham. And the easiest way to control this yantra, which in turn is controlling the easiest way to control this tantra, which is controlling the yantra, is this mantra called soham. And Swami beautifully describes Mother Saraswati as he says that's fine. And how do you play this mantra? That's how Mother Saraswati is visualized. She's sitting on that white swan Hamsa. Hamsa is nothing but if you keep reciting Soham, 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 it is nothing but it becomes Hamsa. So Mother Saraswati is the goddess of that breath. And how and what is she holding? That veena, which has two hubs. The veena is your vertebrae, your spinal column that is passing from your brain to the Mooladhara, and that it has two studs, one big, one small, and those are nothing but very similar to the veena that she is holding. And how do you pass this mantra through those 32 vertebrae that you have? That is nothing but, as Swami refers to as Kundalini Shakti is being called as, but as the Pranadhara Shakti. So that's how the Yantra, Mantra, Tantra is referred by Swami.
So tantra is the way, yantra is the means, the instrument, and mantra is the driving force which
Yes,
governs. But all of them is governed by Maya Shakti.
yes, yeah,
And that is the power of the Lord. And that is the beauty. So let me show you the different, Bhagwan has mentioned it, so it's worth sharing. These are the astras and shastras that few of them Swami has mentioned. So it becomes interesting for people to learn, that how how many different varieties, Danda Chakra, Dharma Chakra, Kala Chakra, Vajrastra, Trishul, Brahmastra. See, all these, we have heard these names, right? But we don't know the capacity of them. We knew that Brahmastra is the highest, but it seems more than Brahmastra is the Dharma Chakra, which ultimately is, a controlling factor. And these are the various different, imagine how many powers, and most of them, or all of them, in fact, they had learned they could be withdrawn also by the mind power of the user. And these are all things which Vishwamitra had acquired. So you can imagine the status which Sage Vishwamitra had reached in his life. And this is all that what he offers to Ram as a means, as a mark of surrender. So the first destination, Raju, which we reach in this journey is Shivashram. And this is a very interesting, which I think you can narrate. This Shivashram is in the confluence of the Ganga river and the river Saryu. And last time we we looked at the origin of Saryu was from Mansarovar lake. That Saryu, when it overflew, it became the river of Saryu. So from Mansarovar came Saryu and Ganga. We look at the story of Ganga as we move forward. And where they both merge, that is the place where this ashram is, where they stopped. And this is also called Kamashram. So I'm sure people would remember the story. Raju, you want to give a brief story about how the Kamadev was burned to ashes. So that is the spot. It's called Shivashram. So you want to sketch quickly the story of Kamadev?
Yes, brother. In fact, the story goes as such that Shiva was lost in deep meditation, and all the sages, saints, and the devas wanted the creation to happen. So they wanted Shiva to somehow get distracted to so that he can accept Parvati as his consort, and and as a means they find this person, the Kamadeva, and he was sent to Shiva. In fact, in one of the Purnachandra sessions, Swami was describing the story, and Swami says it seems when Manmadha had gone to disturb Shiva, he shot the arrow, and Swami says it seems Shiva just had a little like a jerk, as if you say for example, you have you are
Ant.
sleeping, and then an ant passes on your hand, and you just shake it off like. So Kamadeva has sent his most powerful weapon, and some says there he just like he just jerked, and that kind of went away. And in fact, these are two instances where Swami beautiful describes says the Lord. I very clearly remember that Punichandra session where Swami says Shiva did not even need to open the third eye. He just wanted to know who it was who fired that missile. So the manner in which Swami sketches the characters is so lofty. Like same is the case the way he describes Rama's fighting in, as we will discuss this further. When he fights demons, effortlessness, like he just calls for the weapon, so effortless. In the same way, Shiva just looks at that Kamadeva who was the instrument in firing that particular missile or the astra, and with that just mere look, the Kamdeva is burnt into ashes. But his wife comes and pleads him, saying that it is his duty to ensure that the progeny of this world continues. Please, says so he will be visible to you, but not to the rest of the world. So that's why he becomes Rati Deva, and that's the story. And that they say is the place where this has happened. This Shivashram is a place where
See,
Manmada
here,
was born.
Raju, I would just like to add, I always feel that our Puranas, and especially this Shiv Puran, Narayana Vishnu Puran, see, all these Puranas are a story version of Ved. So,
Yes.
yeah, it happened or don't happen, we can debate and discuss about that. But the fact of the matter is, they are coded. These stories are written in such a beautiful manner that they convey much more than what a human mind can comprehend. So because we can't comprehend absolute, we have our unfortunate limitation is that we can only express it through our senses, what our senses can absorb. So we have to describe an absolute through our limited knowledge. And that is a challenge because we don't know how else we can describe that Shiva burnt him down. So it has to be anger. So we bring in the anger part of it, and then the dramatization of the videos that third eye opens and the fire comes out, and there is a lot of dramatization in the whole story, and it makes it look very like very gore sometimes. My God, was Shiva so ferocious? So you make God look like, in a human parlance, a very terribly angry person, short tempered, who was disturbed and he burnt you down. But if I understand, when you hear Bhagwan describe all of that, you realize that there was no need. The anger did not come. It's like a child playing with you and a child slaps you. You don't get angry towards child. You just look at the child smilingly and you correct him. And if a child hits hard, he will only get hurt. So you can't say that the floor hit the child. It is the child which is hitting the floor and gets hurt. So imagine that Shiva, that personality sitting there. and Kamadev, with all his powers, trying to disturb him. And when he disturbs it, as a loving eyes fell on him, that who is this child who is disturbing me? Because the drishti is so Sudarshan, that is why the Narayan aspect we call Sudarshan. And here I
Yes.
don't know why they made it into an angry third eye. So it is a Sudrishti of Shiva which falls on Kamadev. And when Shiva's drishti falls, a negative has to burn to ashes. And that is why Shiva is smeared with ash all times. So there is nothing which remains in the company of fire. Fire takes it back to the original source. Anything which touches fire goes back to its original. So Kamadev, if I understand it rightly, was transferred to his original purest form. But that pure form would not help Brahma's creation. And hence the Rati prayed, Hey Bhagwan, we did a mistake of trespassing our boundaries, so please forgive. And again the thing started. But the lesson is learned that don't ever try that same stunt on that infinite, because we are only looking at from our sensual, human, limited, you know, perspective, which doesn't work on large share. So I find this thing very interesting, and it's important for us to keep reminding that whenever you're looking at the life of our avatar or life of the gods, we should be humble about to acknowledge that our limitation is to look through our human perspective, and yet we have to make an attempt to understand that human analogies and human correlations cannot be directly imposed onto the life of avatar. Would you agree with me?
Absolutely, brother. I think you have put it so beautifully. Yes, I think human, like there is one episode where Swami had one day the cloth distribution was going on the Shivaratri evening, one the next day of Shivaratri. So Swami had asked two boys, they were supposed to give speech, and Swami said, "Do you want to see Vishwarupa?" It was in the morning, uh, and the boys were of the opinion that Swami will show that mighty Vishwarupa of Shiva, the massive Vishwarupa, and they were sitting in the bhajan hall and waiting for Swami to come. Swami came inside, and apparently there was some confusion in the cloth distribution, and Swami became he was very angry. He was acting as if he's very angry. And there was a lot of confusion because Swami was quite upset and Swami was very angry. Apparently, Swami was very disturbed, and this went on for few minutes. Swami was so angry that nobody wanted to even come near, even enter Bhajan hall. It so happened at one point of time that it was only Swami at the one end of the Bhajan hall, and these two boys were so scared that they went and sat in the other end of Bhajan hall because they did not want to be anywhere near this ferocious Swami. So from there, Swami looks at them and says, "Did you like Vishwarupa? Did you like Vishwarupa?" Uh, that is when they realize that my God, Swami was referring to that Rudra aspect. That Rudra is that anger. And next day in the discourse, Swami explains that to convey a deep message to the crowd, story is the best form. Says like the poets have weaved stories around concepts. Like when you say Rudra, it is not easy to understand. So you add him all that, you add all the paraphernalia, that the massive throat, massive body, ferocious eyes, and add all those emotions, and then create a story because story is an easiest way for the mind to store information.
Absolutely.
That's how
Absolutely.
Puranas are born. And I think even our Kamadeva episode that you have mentioned is, I think, is brought upon like that to convey a very deep message.
Wonderful. So, let me show you on the map how they travel. I thought it will be interesting for everybody, the viewers, to get an idea. So, this is where the journey started. On top, if you look at, this is Ayodhya on the top left side. From there, this is the Ganga River. So they walked across Ganges. Let me see if I can. Yeah, let me use this different color to identify here. So they started walking this way and came here. This is the Kamakshi. Okay, this is the Shivashram that they reached. So you can see the confluence of Ganga, and this are the third one also is coming here. So I'll tell you, this is a emergence, and then here I believe they must have crossed, as per the story, and reached the other place. That is your 1 minute. Sorry, I think it's stuck. And here they reached this place called Siddhashram. So Siddhashram is here. The S is Siddhashram. So this is the journey which they have taken from there and reached Siddhashram. Siddhashram, the story of Siddhashram is very interesting. When we look at it, it seems when Vaman avatar happened, Vaman avatar had prepared, made this ashram. And from then onwards, you had sage Kashyap and many other rishis who have meditated there. And this became a very important ashram for higher souls like Vashishta, Pulastya. Many of the rishis had come and meditated this place. And later on, Vishwamitra made it his ashram. The beauty of what I look at it, Raju, is that nobody owned anything. You know, everything was done in a very mature manner that now it is created and anybody can get benefited. So and we'll see how soon Vishwamitra also will leave this ashram and move on. So this became Siddha ashram of Vishwamitra, where he had pledged to perform a major yajna as a culmination of his life. And this was a pledge which Vishwamitra had taken. And I'm sure you can throw some more light on it, that even though rishis had all the powers, even though they had all the strength and knowledge, nobody could defeat them. Yet, when they took initiation into doing havan or doing this kind of session, they were not supposed to use their powers for their protection. One reason which they quote is that they would have lost their powers in that process. So what is your perspective on why didn't they use it? When Vishwamitra himself was so powerful, why didn't he use it, and why did he have to wait for somebody to come and protect his yajna?
Yes, I think they were following that the dharma to the last dot of I and the cross of the T. The so as per the yajna vidhi, you are not supposed to hold weapon or not supposed to commit any. Once you take the pledge that yes, I get into this yajna, you are not. Uh, you cannot kill a being in spite of it harming you. There are various instances where the similar war was explained over scriptures, over in itihasas, Mahabharata, Ramayana, and once you take a bit, and it is not that Vishwamitra is not capable of killing them. Probably could have, and there are enough clues that Swami leaves that had he wanted, Vishwamitra could have killed. But he also Vishwamitra was not a normal sage. He is brought in for a purpose. If you look at the entire journey of Vishwamitra, every time Swami leaves, there was no necessity. If you look from the author's point of view, if you look from the writer's point of view, there was no necessity for Swami to write certain lines where he sees it's just a hanging line where he says the students have slept and the guru was left thinking, why is it the Lord using those sentences? And there, another time he says the dawn broke, and when Rama saw Vishwamitra was looking at him, it is Swami is leaving enough clues for the reader, a reader with an insight that Vishwamitra knew what is coming. Now he knew that the time has come for him to announce the grandeur of this Lord Rama to the world. And this was just a, it appears like this was just a pretext that Vishwamitra had used.
Rajesh, since you have shared this, I would like the viewers to know this where you are referring from. And this is a place where, in I think it's Siddhashram also and in Kamashram also, there is
Yes,
a
Kamas.
mention by Bhagwan, and that's what I would like the viewers to get attention. Is that when Vishwamitra, as a habit of protocol, he would tell them stories about the place and everything at night before they sleep. It was like a satsang. So Vishwamitra would tell stories and Ram would ask questions and all that will happen. And after that, he will announce that sleep time. You know, our night bell has come. So everybody would go to sleep. But as a protocol, the guru must go and sleep first. And then only the disciples will take his position. And here Bhagwan, as you rightly mentioned, here Bhagwan very beautifully mentions that Vishwamitra is sitting and Ram and Lakshman go to sleep. And it's a very interesting thing that how Bhagwan has mentioned that. And he's sitting and watching them. And at a time when Bhagwan has not given too much of description to it, but he says he's admiring them and he keeps looking at them in deep late at night. And before then he thinks that I should not disturb and he quietly walks out. And then sometimes you find him, early morning before they wake up, he's hovering over them and admiring them. So these are the certainly glimpses which Bhagwan has mentioned, which shows how Vishwamitra, I'm sure, must be in that, the bliss that he has the avatars with him and he's coming to the conclusion of his life. And that is where the avatars are blessing him for this journey. And he must be making the best of it. But another same thing like Maya Shakti was telling you, each instance he gets excited that now Ram, I know that you are omnipresent. Now Ram, I know that you are ever powerful. See, such statements also are parallelly mentioned. So it's very beautiful to see how that Rishi also falls trap. And yet when he gives over, he says, I know Ram, that all is you, but I'm doing my duty to give you. And yet he sits down and answers the questions. So there's a very beautiful drama between the Lord and the devotee going on. So
Beautiful.
we have
Yes.
from Siddhashram, we can move to. Oh, sorry, I didn't even. So here, if you look at that journey, now from Siddhashram, they are going towards the River. This Sona River here, this is the territory or uh, place where Vishwamitra's ancestors had ruled. And this here the Ganga is also named differently. There are a lot of things. He's called Magadhi. Ganga was also referred to as Magadhi. And that is where the name Magad came, which became Bihar today. So this area is surrounded by small, small mountains. There are, I think, 5. And it was that whole area was Magadhi, and that is where the name Magad for present time has come. And this is the place where Vishwamitra's lineage had survived and lived and ruled. So, Raju, you want to throw a glimpse at Vishwamitra's life little bit?
Yes, brother. I was just thinking. So, brother, before we also go on to the journey, there in the Siddhashram, as Swami mentioned
Oh,
that
sorry,
there.
sorry. We have to cover Siddhashram. Sorry, sorry. Yes, yes.
Yes. Yeah.
So, yeah. So tell the story about the ashram and how the yajna took place. I think it was a sixth day yajna,
6
and
days, yes.
Ram announces that we should do the yajna next day itself. He said, "Can we do it?" So he didn't command. He said, asked for Guru, and Guru said, "Ashram is always ready. We are in the process, so we can do in the morning." And they started. And I believe 5 days the yajna went smoothly. There was no interruption. And Ram, in fact, does the formality of asking the ashramites as to, do you know how the rakshas attack, or what is their trend. So he's trying to take some information, but the ashramites, they said, they have no rules, they have no regulations, they can attack anytime, and it is very difficult to predict how they attack, when they attack. So Ram says it's okay, and they go on guard. And on sixth day is the appearance of Marich and Subahu. Raju, all yours.
Yes, brother. So I just thinking the way in which Swami describes the two brothers guarding the yajna. He says like he uses the words of Vishaka as uh, uh, they were guarding like like the way in which Shiva's sons were guarding, and and very beautifully, very descriptively, Swami gives that explanation as to how they were watching all the sides, and then suddenly on the sixth day, Swami is a great poet. The writing style, he visualizes the entire, he sketches the entire scene in front of her eyes. He says the the fire broke out, even the grass that was supposed to be meant to be offered, even the plate that was supposed to be meant to offer, all of them started burning, all of them started going up in flames. This, and nobody could see as to where the fire is coming from. And Swami, even in that confusion, the Lord never leaves for the reader to forget that it is actually Rama. And he says, he uses the word Rama, through his divine vision, saw the cause of this mayhem. And he identified them and he shot arrows. And and the way in which some describes is those two arrows, the Agni Astra and Manasa Astra. Agni Astra shot towards Subahu, and Manasa Astra towards Maricha, the two brothers. It holds them, it kind of ties them, and Swami described that they were groaning in uncontrollable pain. Manasa arrow for the Maricha, and Agnyastra for Subahu,
So,
and they, both of them were tied and they were ferried away. They were carried away like flies, thrown into ocean. Swami uses the word ocean. And if we look the geographical point of view, the way you have mentioned about the map, it is somewhere up in the parts of Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, and neither on the northern side or nor on the eastern side do we have any ocean, but deep south that is far away beyond
yeah,
Kanyakumari.
either it could be Bay of Bengal or it
Yes,
could be deep south. So both are far.
both
So
are far, so far.
imagine these two giants being flown and thrown like that into the ocean.
And just looking at that, the hordes run away. And then Swami mentions that Lakshmana tells, even at one side, Swami shows as a great author, Swami describes the valor of Rama, and other side he also shows that compassion of Rama. He says the hordes begin to run away, and again, as I said, there is no necessity for Swami to use the word. Swami says Lakshmana prompted Rama that, however weak and pleading they might appear, but Rakshasas are too dangerous to be left alive. So please burn them and please kill them. It's only on his prompting and only on the prayers of all the sages that Rama finishes off all the hordes of Rakshasas, and all the rishis and munis pray for the compassion. Swami uses the word. He says that both the compassion and the valor of Rama, almost equaling, like in their mind, they were comparing Rama to Shiva himself, uh, because it's very significant in the context that these are just kids who have come from forest, and these sages are looking at them for the first time. Oh yes, Vishwamitra knew because he spent at least all those 6 or 7 days traveling with them, but these sages were looking at them for the first time in their life. And the way in which Rama would have fought, the way in which Rama would have vanquished those hordes of rakshasas was his stamp, conveying how great and how powerful archer Rama is.
Here they have mentioned a very beautiful line, and he says, Vishwamitra continued his yajna
Ah,
without
yes,
any interruption, and not even a slight movement or disturbance in their body and mind. So imagine the army of Rakshasas throwing every possible things on you, including flesh, meat, stones, pebbles, or ammunitions, and how these two brothers have guided. I can't even imagine what kind of arms Ram must be using to cover that nothing drops, nothing comes near the Yajna, and they are able to focus on Yajna without interruption. And here he destroys the whole army. It is amazing. I can't even begin to imagine what kind of caliber these two princes, if I want to call them so, must possess and express, right?
yes, absolutely, brother. I think even the way in which Swami mentions that the Maricha and Subahu, Swami uses the word to prevent the sinful contact of the corpses to that holy place, they were thrown away. So beautifully, Swami is conveying that Maricha and Subahu, if we read the story in the beginning, Swami, they were not of the Rakshasa origin. Unfortunately, it is
Acha.
their unrestricted desire and uninhibited fears and jealousy and anger that turned those princes into demons to
Heavens,
such an extent that even their, I mean, some is very beautifully cautioning the reader that if you go in this path, your even your dead body would be considered, to touch a dead body would be considered a sin. Such would be your status, such would be the
fate.
fall of your, yes, fate, a fall of your personality. And they were thrown away into the forest while Vishwamitra, as you mentioned, was undisturbed and comes and praises Rama. And the same time, if there is another line where Swami beautifully mentions that as Vishwamitra is praising, saying that you have done all this, but as you said, the Maya Shakti covers again, and Vishwamitra begins to distribute the holy offerings of the sacrifice. Swami writes that line. It is the same Vishwamitra who few minutes back praised Rama that you are Narayana himself who have vanquished those demons, and then he begins to distribute the offerings of that Maya, again saying that this should be consumed because they are like very pious and sacred offerings. The Maya has just covered him up again.
And as this event gets over, obviously the Ram, his command was that finish that, save him, and move. But that time, that story folds very beautifully, unfolds that at that time there is a royal messenger from King Janak who arrives at the ashram, giving an invitation to sage Vishwamitra and his whole ashramites to come and attend the yajna, which has been conducted by organized by Raja Janak. And this yajna was a very auspicious and a very big one, where all the possible kings and rishis and saints and seers were invited. And Vishwamitra is very happy for that, and he in fact says all of us will go that side. But Raju, here I would like you to share that you know this is another beautiful part of Ramayana, that every character in Ramayana is so conscious of dharma, that what is right, what is not right. So before they do any act, it is a self-analysis which keeps on go happening. So when this invitation comes and Vishwamitra says, this is a good auspiciousness, we will attend, and the whole ashramite says, sadhu, sadhu, Ram questions that, oh Guru, for what work I was invited, is done. Now, will it be appropriate for me to take up next assignment without my father's approval? So, should it be appropriate for me to go for this yajna, or better I return back to Ayodhya? So,
Yes.
I not more than the question. I admire the the constant, as Bhagavan says, constant integrated awareness that all the time keep questioning whether my act is right or not right. And Vishwamitra then tell us what does Vishwamitra counters this argument of Ram.
Yes, brother. And Vishwamitra, so it's beautiful the way in which Lord also enacts, and his devotee also enacts back. I mean, he kind of appears little more intelligent than the Lord. Lord, I think Swami would do the same thing with all the boys or with his devotees. Vishwamitra adds to that line of Rama saying that, let me have to read out. Vishwamitra says, Rama, I'm just reading out from Swami's Ram Katha. He says, Rama, Dashratha did not stop with that only. He said, go and obey all that the sage commands you to do. Do not transgress his command by even the width of a grain. He told me, Master, you must assume full responsibility for my children. You must yourself bring them back to me. You listened to what he said when he left Ayodhya, so follow my word now. Come with me to Mithila, and from there we will go to Ayodhya, I and you and all my disciples. Rama realized the truth inherent in this plan. Nodding in agreement, he said, we will do as you desire. such a such a powerful writer that Swami is. Swami, the way in which Swami uses the word, go and obey all that the sage commands, do not transgress his command even by the width of a grain. And just above that is where Rama is asking, imagine a scenario where the students, I mean, that is how Swami says, the Swami has emphasized that Ramayana and Mahabharata should be taught to students. It is not without a reason or without a purpose. The great lessons of humility, of etiquette, of manners, of obedience are embedded in these conversations.
But
There was
Raju, before this counter argument, there is another beauty which we can highlight is that when Ram questions initially, Vishwamitra is not imposing his command on
yes,
Ram. So
yes,
first he says to Ram that Ram, this is a very important event. If I have to drop you back and then go, because my commitment is that I must drop you, so I can't send you without me. So which means I have to walk now first to Ayodhya, then come to Mithila. I don't have that much of time. Then I will not be able to attend yajna. So it is better that we go this way. So he gives first argument that I cannot, because its time is not there. Otherwise,
right,
probably I would have considered that part. But when Ram again asked him that, Lord, I am with you, but do you think I should get permission from my father? That is where this second argument comes. That
absolutely, you're right, yes,
is a very beautiful. See, like how they are showing that nobody's imposing, but they are all talking dharma. Everything is dharmic. Even the arguments are based on dharma. So counter
yes, absolutely.
argument and arguments are always based on dharma, and that is what fascinates me about the whole concept. And obviously, Vishwamitra then announces that let us pack up and leave. And in fact, he goes on to indicate that pack up everything what you need and not more. And so disciples are not sure what he meant. So they even asked him that, Guru, so should we carry this? Should we carry that? And how long are we going out for? When we come back. So they are trying to get all the, obviously as a planner, we all think of those things. And it's so nice that Sage Vishwamitra teaches another lesson of living in now. And he says, we don't know the future. So even though he knew it very well, what he's going to do, but he says, we don't know the future. So whenever you leave, you must leave with fullness and pick up what is required and nothing more. And he commands them to pack. And there's a very beautiful thing. He says, don't lock the doors. You read that, Raju? It's
Yes,
very
brother.
interesting. Yeah? He says, don't lock, leave everything open. If somebody comes, they can also utilize the ashram. So their departing is very beautiful, very graceful, and very. I think he also describes about when they start leaving, how animals and birds and everybody flocks around them, and Vishwamitra had to go to each one of them and pacify them and tell those animals that and in fact they are saying Bhagavan writes that they want to follow Vishwamitra, and Vishwamitra says, no, this is your environment. This is the most conducive environment for you to stay here and continue your life. And he indicates that he will not come back. And I think he announces that time to Ram that he would like to depart to Himalaya, which he did. But nobody knew why is he taking Ram and Lakshman to Janak. And that is the
Yes.
secret which has kept from them.
And that is why Swami uses the word that Rama realized the truth inherent in this plan.
Yes,
So
that is
it was only the three players of the drama, maybe probably the two players, Rama and Vishwamitra alone, knew as to why the journey ahead is very important. And Swami so beautifully describes the ashram, as you said, ashram leaving scene. There was, if you look from the story point of view, it is not a significant event at all. As Vishwamitra just leaving the ashram, but Swami uses that occasion to drive home a very beautiful lesson. He says that ashram is that, as you put here, which gives ashraya for ashritas and which offers shelters to the seekers. And there is no necessity for Swami to go into the details that when the doors were about to be bolted, Vishwamitra says, "Do not bolt it. So keep them open." And very
give a
subtle.
translation of Ashraya and Ashritas.
Yes, brother. So Ashraya is Ashraya for Ashritas. Ashritas are the seekers. Ashraya is for shelter. So the ashram is one that offers shelter to the seekers, or Ashraya to the Ashritas is ashrama. And and Swami beautifully describes that even when they are bolting the door, some Vishwamitra tells them, "Don't bolt it." There is no necessity from the author's point of view to say this, but very subtly he's conveying that these were the prevalent social norms of that time. Now that they were not worried about would thieves come or what would happen to this place. No, that was not the objective. This is meant for your spiritual progress. Like you have the resorts where you can go and meditate, and they are open for anyone, free access, not bounded by privileged access is absent. It is open for everyone. And another point, Swami also adds, it looks as if Vishwamitra never wanted. He says that line. He says Vishwamitra tells the ashramites that now this place is free of all the demons. Probably to clean the place of all the demons, Vishwamitra appears to have selected that spot for doing yajna. Otherwise, Vishwamitra could have done it anywhere else. But he knew that the Siddhashram was being disturbed by these odes, and an excuse has to be brought upon so that Rama and Lakshmana would come and clean this place. And that's how it appears. Because if you look from the from the story writing point of view, there was no necessity for the author to mention that. For Swami to mention, it is a very insignificant line of the conversation of Vishwamitra. And and Swami also beautifully builds up. He says that he makes a very cryptic statement in the beginning, saying, "Will you ever come back?" Vishwamitra says, "I am not really sure if I come back." And then Swami says, "And that night people spent in confusion. They do not know what is happening." And every time, somehow, if we see, next day morning, whenever Vishwamitra gets up, whenever he's with Rama, and when he gets up, there is a transition to his next phase of life. Like once he he begins to understand his role. Second time he gives up his divine bows. Third time he takes initiation into yajna. Now fourth time, this is where he announces that I am done with this phase of ashrama. I am going to Himalayas. Probably those nights, I think, were the deep reflective moments for Vishwamitra, where he meditated upon Rama, and the directions were given to the master as to what he should be doing. I
Beautiful.
think yes, but I think it's a treasure house. The Swami's writings, that if we delve deeper, each paragraph talks so much, gives so much of essence and meaning that we just have to meditate upon it.
And to seal the deal with Ram, at
Yes,
that night, Vishwamitra tells him the story of Shiv Dhanush. I think this was as like a bait, I would say. Very nicely, he says to him, there is another thing there. And Ram, this is the only event where Ram is excited now. And he says, I want to see that. And for the darshan of Shiv Dhanush, Ram is now excited to go to Janakpuri. So that becomes a bait in a way, which all the convictions are done. Now Vishwamitra tells this story about Shiv Dhanush. So Raju, you want to quickly mention the story?
yes, brother. I'm just if I have to read out. I'll just read out from Swami himself. Says years ago, Vishwamitra answered. Years ago, the emperor of Mithila, Devavrata, celebrated a great rite, the like of which no mortal could ever dare to perform. A rite that could confer vast spiritual benefits, a rite that pleased the gods so highly that they gifted him this divine bow as a mark of appreciation. It is the bow of Shiva. It is worshipped with due rites by Janaka every day. He offers flowers and sandal paste and waves camphor flame and incense in its honor. He places eatables and fruits before the divine presence in the bow in reverential homage. The bow is so loaded with divinity that no one can raise it and string it, be he god, demon, angel, or spirit. Many princes who attempted to string it have met with disgraceful disappointment. Rama, you are worthy heroes, you can examine it. During this coming ride, the bow will most probably be on show. So, this is certainly a good chance.
So Vishwamitra says that, it is actually made, they say that there are two bows made by the divine architect Vishwakarma.
Yes.
And yeah, one was with Parshuram and another was here. And this bow was given by Indra to them, and this family has it. It is expected to be weighing around 1,000 tons. Can you imagine what a size of Shiva must be? What kind of people were 1,000 tons? And this is what was kept on a big, chariot-like thing, and it was pulled by wrestlers, the biggest, powerful men of Janakpuri. And he also mentions there were around 6 to 8 people were dragging it on the wheels. That is how this bow was, moved from one place to another if need arise. And yes, and Vishwamitra says that this bow will be on the show. But I don't think he mentions anything about Sita at this point of time, right? It is
Yes, he
the
does not mention anything.
Yeah, it is Raja Janak who starts this. That he tells the story again, and there he mentions it. But this is an interesting thing, and this is where he leaves the story, and he says that bow, as you rightly said, will be likely on the display. So it's a very good chance and a rare opportunity to see that. And Ram actually is ready for it now. So very interesting how a excuse is created, and even though Lord knows the divine purpose, but how they go for it, it's lovely. I really admire this hidden stories and method they follow. Okay, then now let us go to this Sona River. So, and that is the
Yes.
story of ancestors of sage Vishwamitra. So, you want to sketch that story, Raju?
Yes, brother. And just to add, as you said, the departure of from the ashram as they were bolting, Swami goes on to describe that some of the hermits, the senior hermits, they realize that the the residents of the hermitage realized that their place was where Vishwamitra was, and not the forest or huts where they had lived so long. They felt that Himalayan ranges was equally suitable for them, so they also offered gratitude and reverence to the forest deities and the grass-thatched dwellings and walked on behind the sage. Again,
Thanks for reminding. It's a very beautiful thing which you have highlighted, uh, because this is what exactly Bhagwan was is to tell the students that hostel is giving you a discipline of life, but
yes.
wherever in ashram there is a discipline of life. So wherever you carry the discipline, there is ashram for us. So if you want, like if you think of Bhagwan, there is Bhagwan. So this is exactly what Vishwamitra is telling the disciples, that ashram is not the place alone. If you follow the discipline and the dictums of ashram life, then the ashram goes with you. So that is a very beautiful departure which he's sharing with his disciples.
And also all of them offer their gratitude to the village to the forest deities and the
Yes,
thatched roof. It is that expression of gratitude that thank you for allowing us to be here.
to
And
be
so
here.
deep and rich is our culture that
And then
Swami
the
uses.
detachment.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely, they walk away as if they never belong there.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yes, brother.
Okay.
And also the last paragraph where he says that the thousands of as they walk, the thousands of trails of deers, peacock, birds, and beasts of the jungle running with raised tails in eager haste of yearning. Vishwamitra stopped and turned towards them. O denizens of jungle, the places to which I am going are not congenial for your style of living, for your safety and security. The forest is your natural habitat. Do not be sad at separation. Do not follow us. Remain here. God will grant you joy and peace. He took leave of them too before resuming the journey. And what an amazing personality was this master Vishwamitra. That all the beings, I mean, very beautifully Swami conveys that the coexistence, that there was never a feeling that one is superior, one is inferior. It is not a beast, it's an animal, it is not worthy of spiritual practice. No, it is so clear that all of them loved each other so much that they wanted to follow Vishwamitra wherever he is. And what a personality would have been Rama, that's great Vishwamitra is falling at Ramachandra, who is just a that I'm just a kid. I'm apparently
16
a
year
young
old.
lad, 16-year-old lad.
16-year
How
old.
gracious you would have been, how valorous you would have been, how beautiful, attractive he would have been, even in his mannerisms and his appearances.
Beautiful. Okay, so let us jump into now the Vishwamitra's lineage on Sona River. So once we reach the Sona River, and Vishwamitra starts telling him the story about this place. It is so interesting when the sages reach that stage, they don't say it's my life and my family and all that. They just narrate as a tale to learn from them, right? So the story, Raju, if you want to start, it started from Manasputra of Brahma, that is Kasu, who
Yes.
had four sons, and one son was Vasu. Kasu's one son was Vasu, who had built a beautiful kingdom surrounded by five hills. It was also called Girivraja, and Sona River, actually, not sorry, Ganga, Sona River was called Sumagadi. Sumagadi
Hmm.
was the name of the river, and because of that, the place was called Magad. And as we know, if you little bit of history, not far in past, the Patna, Bihar region was called Magad, and this is where they ruled, and the whole place is very beautiful because it is surrounded by mountains and all that. So it was very beautiful, and that is where he says, "This is the kingdom in which their family ruled and remained." And I think this is the spot where he announces to Ram that I decide to retire now after this journey and retire to Himalayas, north of. See, they would talk always from the Ganga's point of view, north of Ganga, they would travel. And here he talks about also the story of Ganga. And that is a very interesting thing, that every stage Ram is questioning and they are giving us insight into the history of our place and how everything has happened. Isn't it very beautiful? Like today we talk about imaginative stories about different characters created in for children. But here, if you look at it, how the story narration was also from our ancient history, our own, as I say, ancestors. They were worthy of narrations. So I would say that it's a nice clue for parents to understand that when they have to tell a story, they can always go back and talk about the place, the people, the saints, the kings, how they ruled and what they did. So I would say, Raju, if you can sketch a little bit more and tell about the how Ganga's story has come in.
Okay, brother. I was just okay.
Yeah,
So,
take
in
it
fact,
from the top, no problem. Huh.
yeah. So, in fact, I was just thinking of even the Vishwamitra's lineage itself as to how uh, from the Gadi, from Kusa comes Gadi, from there comes Vishwamitra. Vishwamitra, he is so attached to his sister Satyavati that he comes and stays, he establishes himself in the Siddhashram because all his sisters kind of gave up their life once their husbands passed away, and they took birth on the Himalayan ranges as rivers, as Kaushiki. And because he was born in Kusha family, he is also called as Kaushika. His
Kaushika.
other Kaushika, other name as Vishwamitra. And there is that point where he says, Rama, through your immeasurable heroism, the right I have resolved upon has come to its successful conclusion. It has borne fruit, my vigorous vows have been fulfilled. It is as if you look back just analytically, again this is after one night. So again this night, so one night prior he left his ashram, he gave up his siddhashram. Now another night he is giving up his past, literally he is giving up his past. One night he sleeps and wakes up and he recollects the entire life story, and then tells that the reason for which I've taken up this right has now come to an end. This is I've taken it for my sister's honor, so that is also done. Now that Vishwamitra is also dead, he says, I would not have dwelt on all this, but Rama, your question prompted me to reply. I do not give details regarding this body and its antecedents. It is very clear as to why Vishwamitra is being used by Swami to convey. And again the character of Vishwamitra again gets elevated. Vishwamitra does not say that I have not spoken about my past. No, the differentiation is so clear. He says, I do not give details regarding this body and its antecedents. He is very clear that it's over, the past is done, I'm done
See,
with my
isn't it
past.
the same way Swami used to also mention about his body?
Absolutely, brother.
It's so nice.
Absolutely, and it's you read Vishwamitra closely, we just realize that it is Rama in some sense, walking in the form of Vishwamitra. Probably some bit of some bit of Maya must be there on that form of Rama, but otherwise, such a such a great sage that he is. And
Amazing.
as you said, yes,
People
as you
who are
said, that
reading this, people who are reading the life of Vishwamitra, they may, that's why it's important for us to remind that his name was Kaushika, the king Kaushika, who later on became Vishwamitra. And because of his, as Raju mentioned, because of his attachment to his sister Satyavati, when they all died, he established himself with this Siddhashram and continued his penance, from where he actually has traveled a lot in doing his penance. He has done penance in Himalayas, then he gone into East Coast, which is presently maybe Indonesia, that belt. He has worshipped all of penance and then come back. And so this is important to know. And this is where he is also talking about, Ganga, and he talks about how Ganga is named as Jahnavi. And that is also interesting. So once you tell the story about Ganga, then we can talk about Jahnavi
Yes,
also.
yes. As Vishwamitra tells Ramachandra that the Himalayan range, the Himavan, has two daughters. One is Uma, and second one is Ganga.
Hmm.
So both of them are beautiful children. That and everybody wanted their company. So Himavan gifts Ganga to the regions of heaven. The gods take her away. So she is with gods, and Uma enters into severe asceticism and penance that she kind of becomes the consort of Shiva himself. And Ganga has to come down to earth for cleaning the ashes of the Sagara sons, and the Sagara sons were none other than the ancestors of Sri Ramachandra, and three generations have tried to bring Ganga to earth, because it is only the ashes of Ganga that can wash away these immense. Uh, Sorry, it is only the waters of Ganga that can wash away these immense ashes of 60,000 sons of Sagara. Finally, Bhagirath, after a lot of penance, he succeeds. And Swami beautifully describes, like if we walk in front of Purnachandra Hall, this Aduri Srinivasa Rao, when he was the district president of Nellore, they had come up with this idea to erect that Shiva's silhouette, and holding Ganges. Shiva is holding Ganges on the head, uh, and the poem is written that, the context was Swami was giving water to the water project to the Anantapur district. So this poet and also was the district president of this particular district. So he had this idea that time that Ganges fell on earth, and you as Shiva took upon your head. Now from your head we thought it flowed only in Himalayas, but now it's actually flowing in the plains of Anantapur. So this was
Nice.
so the kind of expression that he wanted to give. So they showed this. He told me this incident. They showed this love to Swami, that we want to do this. This is the structuring of Shiva that we want to erect. Swami, it seems Swami remarked saying that. If you observe, Shiva is quite muscular in that silhouette. So Swami looked at him and said, and Swami Shiva looks up. The posture of Shiva is looking up like that, and Ganga is falling on his head. Swami said Shiva never needed all this. He was, in fact, he was not even bothered. It looks as if Shiva is preparing himself to receive Ganga onto his head. Swami said Shiva was not even bothered. It was like an ant crawling on a massive elephant. And he said it is like poets like you who made all these stories. And effortless, as that Swami, again the effortlessness. So it falls on Shiva's head, and then as King Bhagirath prays, Shiva agrees to take upon Ganga on his head, and from his head, the Ganga rolls down, and then she becomes the seven streams of Ganges. One follows Bhagirath, so that's why it becomes Bhagirathi. It's
See, it's
very brief.
interesting that there are seven streams they talk. Three go to the east and three go
Oh,
to the
sorry,
west.
yes. And
See,
one
what
follows.
is it's a beautiful thing that it covers the whole thing, and one follows Bhagirath in the center and goes through the whole thing. Very nice. And here he talks about this place. This is the city of Vaishali, I think. No?
Yes, Vishala.
Vishala, the city of Vishala. And that is where he talks about that this is a city of Vishala, where this happened. Bhagirath brings and they are liberated. And then he also explains that for this city of Vishala, he also talks about the Samudra Manthan episode, that how Dhanavas and Rakshasas, both Devatas, are thinking about longevity, and they are looking for, you know, the nectar, and then they do go through the whole churning of the ocean process, in which a lot of things come out, and ultimately, the nectar comes, and obviously we know the story that how Devatas get it, and they kill all the Rakshasas. In that, what happens? The mother Diti, the Rakshasa's mother Diti, obviously the father was common, Kashyap Rishi, and she is heartbroken because all her sons are dead. She prays to her husband that why this injustice, and Kashyap tries to console her, and then he guides her that she must go into penance, and that will be the only way she can find solace. And she takes a very strict and rigid penance, and that protocol of penance would have been that she would have literally maybe destroyed the Devatas, and Indra takes the form of a maid and starts serving her, because that the protocol of the penance was that if she makes a slight mistake, then the whole penance would be nullified. So here is the Indra waiting to check when she will make a mistake. And it seems they say that after many, like long time, once she had taken bath and she had cleaned her hair, and in her tiredness, Diti sleeps in the wrong direction, opening her hair. It's very like scary to even read that how a small deviation can mess up. And she sleeps in the wrong posture with loose hair. Actually, they say that where her head was, the feet should be. So she was sleeping in the wrong direction, and that is the time when Indra destroys and hurts her fetus, and the fetus breaks into 7 fragments, unborn fetus, and they are crying. And Indra uses the word Maruda. Maruda in one translation was that don't cry. Maruda, don't cry. And that also means Rudra, that Maruda is wind. So when she is heartbroken, and Indra says that it's not my fault, mother. Since you made a mistake in your penance, this has fallen on you, and everything is as per the dharmic conditions. But since you have worked so hard, when you have done penance, I bless you. And he blesses those fragments, and they are born as godly Marutas, they say wind gods. And Bhagavan says that that is the place, Vishala, where this discussion happens. And this is the place where that all these things have happened at this spot. And this is the city of Vishala. Let me show you it on the map so people to get an idea as to what are we talking about. So this is the place of Vishala. And in present day, in Bihar, the capital of Bihar is Patna. Right on northern side of Patna, if you look at this, here it is Lalganj written, right? This is the river. Next to this river is the city of Vishala. So this is the area of Vishala. See, historically also how it matches, it's a beautiful thing. Now we can see that timeline. Bhagavan says from Siddhashram to Sona, they walk for a day. From here to here, they walk for a day. So from Kamashram to Siddhashram, and from Siddhashram to Sona, it's a day's walk. So look at how everything is, placed. And this is the place where all these discussions, Maruda story, Ganga's descent, all that happens. Like the pleasure, the penance part happened in this place. And this is the place of Vishala. And from here, Raju, you want to add something here? Sorry, before we move forward.
Yes, brother. I was just thinking now, should we talk about the Ahalya story?
Yeah, then we go forward. That's why I said, in case still here you have to, you want to share anything, or we can move forward.
No, I think yeah, what you mentioned is very comprehensive. Is that
Okay.
I'm also struck with the description that Swami gives. Swami repeatedly he says, మత్తేవ మహామత్తేవ నాడు వీక్షించు బ్రోచు ప్రేమ ఫలము వలవలుడ్చరి నాడు వైదర్ వివదని వడిగాచినటి అవ్యాజకరణ ఆహ్లాదమప్ప ప్రహ్లాద్ పాచినటి అపార కర్ణయు. I'm sorry, I'm trying to recollect a poem in which Swami says he has written it for Kasturi on his birthday. And he says, Palumarlu Puttuna Chalubayalla. Where Swami says, in that poem, he says, I have come down to save that elephant from its suffering. I have come down to give saris to that lady when she was being disrobed. I have come down to feed that old beggar, that old friend of mine who walked into the palace. I have come down time and again to please and help man. Know the sweetness of my heart, O Kasturi. This is a poem Swami writes. Palumarlu puttu na chaluvayalla. Know the sweetness, know my compassion that I have come down again and again for you. And if you look at the way in which Swami describes it, Sagar Mathana, it's exactly in a very similar fashion that Swami is making that statement. He says, the first time when Vasuki was being pulled, the fangs hit the stones and the fire erupts, and all the rakshasas and both Diti and Aditi's son they pray, and he says that time God appeared. The wording is also very beautifully Swami uses says God appeared as Shiva, and then he drank the poison. And now, second time when that entire thing is sinking, God appeared as Vishnu. As a tortoise, he held it back. And third, when they are fighting among themselves, again he appeared as that Maya Sarupini, and he distributed it. Like he very beautifully, carefully emphasizes the point that whenever there's a difficulty, be it the fire that engulfed you, or the effort that is sinking in, or the achievement that is tearing away the unity amongst brothers, he comes down and helps you. He is there to sort out. He's like the big brother. He's the father of the family. He's the ever guarding guardian of this.
Raju, you
Path.
have pointed a very beautiful thing here that Swami mentions. He does not say that, Vishnu then calls
Yes,
Shiva to do that. It is not that.
exactly.
He writes it like Narayan, who was invited to help them for Samudra Manthan. And when the halal happened, Narayan disappears and Shiva appears. So he
Yes.
transforms into Shiva. And then he makes a statement that since I am the senior most, I should get the first offering. So he takes that halal. You have to read Swami, and so it's so admirable that how he does not, go deviate from Tridevs, but how he shows their unity. It is not like one goes and another comes. It is that same form keeps converting as per the role and as per the requirement. So very beautifully he mentions that part. And this is where he mentioned that, in this place of Vishala, the present king at that time was the king Sumati, who, hearing that Vishwamitra is come, he comes and receives them at the entrance and, welcomes them and takes them, and they stay there for a night before proceeding further. So if we look at the map, we can make out that yes, they came from here and he receives them, and this part they live. And after they have lived there for a night and they move forward, and this is where they reach. You see the G here? This is Gautam Rishi's ashram. Very interesting, Raju, is that this spot, exactly this spot, is the ashram, and This river, this portion is a, here is a kund. They call it Gautam Kund even today. So I hope you can see my cursor. I don't know. Can you see the cursor there?
Yes, yes.
So this is the place where the Gautam. So this distance I was trying to measure through the map. It is roughly little over 2 kilometers, and which is a doable thing for Gautam Rishi to go and take bath. So this is the ashram of Gautam Rishi, where the story of Ahalya unfolds. And from here they will move to Janakpuri and Mithila. This is the thing. So you can see the route. You see the route? It's so beautiful. So, Raju, please share the story of Ahalya. I think that is one of the most beautiful and touching stories at this point of time.
Yes, brother. And as you mentioned, there as they reach the Vishala kingdom, and the next day, that night, they sleep. So again, very beautifully, Swami gives that one night break again to Vishwamitra. Now Vishwamitra has left his past. Vishwamitra has left his antecedents. Now, this is where Vishwamitra is now using that opportunity to reveal the Lord's mission to the world, or to the glory to the world. Literally, is unveiling Rama, the Rama in the true sense of miracles and manifestations. So then Vishwamitra tells him that so Rama and Lakshmana, they notice that many of the altars which were earlier maintained, many of the hermitages which were earlier maintained, they were kind of crumbling. They ask Vishwamitra as to why the reason is, and Vishwamitra tells them that this was the great ashram of Gautama, and his wife Ahalya is here waiting for you. She literally turned a rock. So if I have to read from Swami's description, Swami says, Ahalya, the sage's wife, was a woman of great virtue and perfect paragon of beauty. No one was equal to her in personal beauty and charm. So Gautama kept her under watch, guarding her with vigilant care. One day, while Gautama was absent, Indra, the chief of the gods, came into the hermitage in the guise of Gautama himself. The virtuous spouse took him to be her lord and served him reverentially. But real Gautama entered and discovered her apparent faithfulness. He recognized faithlessness, sorry. He recognized Indra in spite of his disguise and became terribly enraged. Evil minded fellow, he shouted, but Indra disappeared. Gautama turned towards Ahalya in anger, roaring, You vowed to destroy the hermitage by indulging in vice. Is it? I won't stay a minute longer. I cannot tolerate the sight of your face. Be prostrate behind some bush, living as a sprite on air with no food or drink. I am off. Ahalya wept her heart out and pleaded. Gautama melted a little and he said, Ahalya, you know that I vowed never to go against the spoken word. Therefore, you have to lie in the bush and pray, sad and starving, until Rama, Dasharatha's son, comes this way. Seeing you, he will shower his grace on you, allowing you to touch his feet. He will speak to you in great compassion. That darshan, sparshan, sambhashan of the Lord will cleanse you, and you will shine forth in all the glory. So this is briefly, as I read out from Swami, this is the story of Ahalya, where unfortunately she mistook Indra to be her husband, and she was cursed by Gautama. But I think it's worth deliberating that why did Gautama curse her? I mean, what was the mistake of Ahalya, or did really Gautama lose his cool? I think there's a deep lesson, brother, as you had mentioned the other day. It was, uh,
Yeah, it is.
yes,
I think it's worth discussing and sharing that thought, because Swami also mentions it in a very subtle way, and in Ram Katha has written it in this manner, as you just read out. But in the conversations, Swami gives a little bit more insight into the psyche of the whole episode. And if you recall, in our scriptures, in our Vedic system, there are 7 ladies who are known for their austerity and for their sacredness, piousness. Ahalya is one of them. Ahalya, Tara, Mandodari, Sita, can you imagine? These are the ladies whom we worship and consider them to be the idealistic ladies of ever, forever, for all the eras. So Ahalya being one such lady, and how could she deviate? That's the point number one. And Bhagwan has very subtly mentioned, and I'm sure you were also mentioning about that. He was talking about the Rajasic Tattva of Ahalya, the element of Rajas in Ahalya. She had that Rajas higher. And when you live with a sage like Gautama, she should have overcome that Rajas, which she did not. So, probably this is also another indicator of how her Rajas had to be controlled and Sattva could take the lead in her. So, Rajas element was one which was, I would think, that this was the hindrance for Ahalya's ultimate fulfillment and accomplishment. Because of this element of Rajas, even though she was so pure, even though she was so pious, even though she understood there is something wrong, because that is what Gautam indirectly says to her that, hey, how could you not know? If somebody wears a mask and comes in front of you, can you like be so ignorant that you won't know that he's a mask wearing mask? So even though he was in a form of sage Gautam, a lady like Ahalya was not expected to miss. See, that is the condition. If it was an ordinary woman, yes, blame could have been gone to Indra directly. And from other aspect, if you look at it, Indra is who? Indra is the king of senses. He thrives on gratification. So what Indra did was a mistake, but it was not against the dharma, the norm of senses. So Indra's chasing the sense gratification was according to his dharma. But he crossed a line, so he was punished. He had to go and do penance for a long time. And that story is a different thing. That how Indra had to give up his position and go through the penance. But Ahalya, because she deviated from her austerity, she was so pure that it was expected of her. So in the heat of that, Gautama Rishi says that since you were like Jada, since you had become Jada, that stone-like figure who did not feel, who lost the sense of response, emotions. So be like Jada. That is your punishment. So look at the curse. It is not a curse given by, uh, sage Gautama. It is actually he's just verbalizing the cause and effect. Since you behave like Jada, so become Jada. It is like that. So that is why Gautama could remain like that, and he melted also immediately. See, an anger does not melt. So just classifying that Gautam got ferociously angry, then how could he just melt in 2 minutes and then say, okay, I don't mind, but I can't help it. You have done that. So what he's saying is that because you have acted like that, the repercussion of action has to happen. So it is better that you take it up with a nice, with positive attitude and do the penance. And what more you want that your liberation is in the hands of Ram himself. And mind you, the viewers, that there was no Ram at that time. Even Dashrath was a young man. He was not even married. He was a young man running around. So this episode happened when there was nothing called Dashrath, marriage, Rama's existence, nothing. And here the Rishi makes a prediction. And he says, this punishment is also a boon because your liberation is in the hands of Rama. So I look at the whole episode and if I have to depict Ramayana today, if we are given a chance to dramatize this episode, then it won't be anger of Gotham. It will be as if a serious face of a father, a scold of a father who's saying, what have you done? You put your hand in the fire and it burnt. So it is not the father cursed you to burn. Because you put your hand in the fire, it has to burn. And that anger of the father, I don't think can be or should be interpreted as sage Gautama getting angry and cursing his wife. So his words came out that, hey, since you have burnt it, see, that is where I remember one thing, Raju, and I just came to my mind that one of our students, don't want to name anybody, he got bitten by a snake, a poisonous snake, and to such an extent that doctors were even fearing amputation of his leg. And when they informed Bhagwan, Bhagwan kept saying that no, 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 it is not, it is something else. And he used a term, I don't know what he used. He used a term of maybe a stomach ache or something like that. Weird name he gave. And they kept trying to tell him that Swami, no, it is a snake bite. It's a snake bite, very poisonous. And Swami said, no, Musko, not that. And ultimately, when they confronted, the boy was cured. And even later on also, Swami said, I will never say that word from my mouth. And then the realization came that, my God, if Swami would have said the word, even by mistake, or even by, so to say, mistake, or just to console them, yes, I know it was poison, but that poison would have become poison and hurt him. Because the Lord did not use the word poison, he said stomach ache, that poison became stomach ache and it was out. So, what Bhagwan says, we cannot use it in that, in that isolated manner, that how can Swami not know that it is a poison? We all had thought at that time that how could Swami say that snake bite is not a poison? And this is the beauty of Bhagwan's words. So imagine if Bhagwan can be so much. Gautam Rishi had reached that stage. So, and he could not, like, he was of course not a god in that way. So he could not, might probably stop his words. And that came out. And that became Ahalya's cause and effect consequence. And also, he gave her the secret of liberation that, okay, this is also part of your journey, Ahalya. But since it has happened, and now you need to focus on your penance, I cannot be with you. And he leaves. So look at that whole situation. So if you really look at it from that perspective, then it makes perfect sense, because at that line the purity was very high. And
So
then how explain that part, how Swami and how Rama enters the ashram. I think
yes,
that is a
brother.
phenomenal description by Bhagavan.
Absolutely. So, in fact, Swami says, Ramachandra expressed great surprise. What, you are telling me that she is waiting for me? Poor thing. If you can let me know where she is deep in austerity, tell me where. As Rama moved on, Vishwamitra and Lakshmana followed him at a distance. He passed through the tangled bushes and entered a hut behind a prayer bush. Until that moment, Ahalya was immersed in austerity. She was far away from the eyes of God, demons, and men. She had forgotten her name and lost her form. She had no concern with food and sleep. She was merely existing as a piece of rock. She appeared like moon's orb, well hidden by the clouds. As Rama neared her, his foot touched her. Ahalya raised her head and seeing Rama's divine charming form held his feet, exclaiming in ecstasy, Ah, I am saved. Oh God came to save me from sin. Your heart is moved at last. She poured out her gratitude in many hymns. At that moment, Gautama too, who was a master of mysterious yoga, appeared before them, for he knew that Rama had come and rescued his wife. He accepted her, purified by rigorous austerity and blessed by Rama. Both husband and wife fell at Rama's feet, and Lakshmana, who were overrun by the spiritual bliss they had. Gautama offered reverence and homage to Vishwamitra. This is such a beautiful explanation that Swami gives the description as to how Rama enters as if Rama is not aware. I mean, as Swami talks about Avatar being the combination of Jiva Prajna to Bhatka Daiva Prajna. The individual entity exists, the human entity apparently wrapped in ignorance exists with the divine master entity. So Rama, Swami says he's walking as if he's unaware. He says he is searching. And telling me Rama moved on He passed the tangled bushes and entered a hut. It's as if Rama is not aware as to where she is. But that same Rama, when his feet touch Ahalya, she comes back to life. She comes back to that consciousness and she prays to Rama for relieving her. How beautifully Swami builds up the scene. Uh, and he also adds this line: as Rama moved on, Vishwamitra and Lakshmana followed him at a distance. They knew that something was going to come up, and they maintained the distance. It's a
I
very
remember Swami mentioning that I think it was a small gathering, and he said the way Rama entered, it appeared as if he knew exactly where he's going.
yes,
And he pretended to look for Ahalya, but he goes into the inner chambers and where she was sitting. And as if by chance, you know, his feet touches Ahalya. So it was not in a dramatized way that he's lifting his leg and putting it on stone and all that. So it was like as if, by mistake, the feet touches. And he also writes that she regains her beauty and grace and age. So she's ever youthful again. See, I'll tell you, Raju, this is an important thing I wanted to share, that if we would not have seen Bhagavan Baba, if we had not lived in that environment, possibly we would not even have comprehended that these are real stories.
absolutely.
Because when you say that Rama touched her and she regained her beauty, it looks totally illogical and unscientific. That how can an old man or old person and a haggard regain his beauty? But we have seen the Lord, and since we know that it is possible, I have seen Bhagavan rejuvenate himself in the normal way, physical body rejuvenation. Not once, but twice. I think he did it 3 times, but I have seen it twice myself. And this rejuvenation is done in the normal process for months living underground. We have seen people rejuvenate. We have seen people, Swami commanding a boy and saying, get up. With a cup of coffee, he rejuvenated somebody. So, not that the coffee had some nectar in it, it was a word of mouth, the word of God, which made that happen. So, since we have witnessed it, we know it is possible. But when you read it, it looks like how can Ahalya regain her beauty? So it looks little, Bollywood dramatization that poof happened. But it was not that. It was dramatic to hear, but it is not that which is unimaginable now. And this is what I would request the viewers to understand, that this is our history and not a mythology as we have understood. So people may still wonder, and I tell you honestly, if we had not lived with Lord, we would also be the same boat, wondering, can Gautam Rishi appear there? Now he says Gautam Rishi was nowhere close, he was meditating in Himalayas. There he gets to feeling that Ram has come to Ahalya and he walks into the ashram. Can anybody question it? I'm sure a logical mind of today will say, how could Gautam start walking? Imagine Gautam starts walking from Himalayas, coming to at the same time when Ram enters the ashram. It was not that. He did appear. People knew the method of flying, they knew the method of manifestation and demanifestation. And in Parthi, also, many of the older students have seen the sages fly like a fire of ball. And it is written even in autobiography of a yogi. Paramahansa Yogananda also has described that his master would travel like that. Babaji would travel like that. So these are not something which are imaginative, but these are something which are in the realm of mantras, which we have unfortunately not able to penetrate and explore that world. So when we hear these stories, my only humble request would be not to take them as mere stories of fantasy, of imagination of a writer. It was reality. presented in a very subtle form. So Bhagavan says that through his yogic power he appeared. What else can he say? Because our mind is not ready to even expect that how could from Himalaya he could fly in and manifest in the ashram directly. Unimaginable. That how could touch of Ram give her the rejuvenation of the whole body. We have seen him giving the whole backbone to a person just by his tap. A person who has not walked for 40 years gets a tap and he walks. I have seen that person with no backbone. His backbone had dissolved. He was wearing a belt. And Swami patted him and he got a backbone, man. So, unless we have seen, it becomes difficult to imagine that these mythologies are not mystical. They are not myth. That's why Swami used to say
They're not myth.
they are not myth. They are not myth. They are mystical. See that I would say this is a beautiful thing. What do you say, Raju?
Absolutely, brother. I completely agree. I think very subtly, Swami is also pointing out to all that we are not aware of. I mean, even with a touch, someone could be revived. They could travel distances in a zif. Gautama came from Himalayas here. I think very subtly, Swami is telling us that, hey, this is your heritage. This is this is the wealth that you should have actually inherited. But we got something else, the knowledge to trying to cross over time, to cross over geographies, to cross over bodies, that ability of the mind to convert anything into anything, that is what the rishis have stood for. In fact, as Swami beautifully mentions, this episode has a lot of relevance to many of us. As brother Srinivas also put in the comments very nicely, that it is a very subtle message to anyone that whoever you might be even Indra or you might be even Ahalya. If you commit an act, you cannot escape the consequences of it unless and until God descends
Yeah,
and touches.
Raju, we just missed out Janvi part of it, but there also explains the power of a rishi.
Yes,
Rishi Janu
absolutely.
was meditating in Himalayan ranges when Ganga starts flowing, and Ganga being Chanchala making noise. So it seems, the story goes that Janu says, "Calm down, Ganga, go slowly." But Ganga Chanchala, she is running and making a lot of noise. And in that, Rishi says, "Okay, you won't listen," and he drinks it. Her. Can you believe he drinks the whole Ganga? Now you had Bharadwaj Rishi who could carry Ganga in Kamandalu, and here is Janu Rishi, who drank. And then the world again prayed that, "Hey, Rishi, release. We have done a lot of penance to bring her down. She's the savior of the world. So release her." And then Janu releases her through her ears. And that is why she gets the name Jahnavi. Now, it could be depiction of a pictorial depiction of, how Janu releases her and she gets the name Jahnavi as a symbolism, or Janvi also could mean the daughter of Janu. So, and coming out of ear is a symbolic version, possibly because she was taken because of the noise which Ganga was making. So that is probably why the artist must have described it coming through his ears, because now the sound has pacified, so releasing it through ears. But drinking Ganga, I would say it's possible. If Ganga can be squeezed into a kamandalu, if Ganga can be captured by Shiva, anything is possible. I don't know how these rishis were, because they could capture the subtle part of the creation which dominates the gross part of it. So what we
Absolutely.
see has a subtle element. So if you capture and control the subtle, the gross gets automatically controlled. So we don't know at what level these rishis were playing. And when we say that he drank, what did he drink? He didn't drink that mass volume of water, probably. But he must have taken the essence where the Ganga disappeared then.
Absolutely.
So it can
Absolutely.
be a different expressions which the author has put it in that manner, that she was making noise, so he drank her. and then he released his, and that's how. So Jahnavi means the daughter of Jahnu, and a label given because Jahana, Rishi Jahnu released her, gave birth to her, a second birth to her in that manner. But if you look at it, how they must be capturing it, was it a physical action? Was it a subtle action? Was it a causal action? We don't even know because we have not yet explored how we can control this whole creation through subtlety. Like Bhagavan would say, no, I have done it. So he has reformed the subtle world, and the gross world is only a manifestation of subtle. And in the due course, it will get manifested. So for him, it was not a surprise that I have cured, I have built, and we are not seeing it. So the seeing happens is a manifestation. So when we say he drank, so I'm presuming it could be subtle, which is just manifested in this physical world later on. What do you
Absolutely,
think?
brother. Absolutely, I completely agree with what you're saying. I think it is also Swami's way of telling us that this is what is you are capable of. I remember once when one of the students was speaking about Shiri Baba's Shri Baba taking out his internal organs and cleaning them in water. Someone beautifully remarked that that message was actually not to show off Shri Baba's prowess. No, it is for each of us to know that you are capable of doing it, but you do not know. You don't have that expertise or that. I think all these stories are also very subtle way of reminding our innate strength, that what a human is capable of. Gautama would not have been born as Gautama. No, I think it would have taken immense effort to transform into Gautama. Vishwamitra was just one more son of Gadi, and he has become Vishwamitra through sheer will and effort. Or you take, for example, the sage Jaknavi. He had meditated for, they say, for hundreds of years, that even with his command, when Ganga did not stop, he just consumed her. These are all at Swami, and to one of our junior brothers, Swami had mentioned this. If you want to look up, he was reading one of these cartoon books of Spider-Man or some of the fantasy characters. Swami said these are all. Swami remarked that in interview room that these boys are wasting time reading bad books. And this boy Swami had given a lot of liberty, so he took the liberty to ask Swami that, Swami, these are stories. Swami said these are all fantasies that are created, but said, see, he gave the example of Vasistha and Vishwamitra in that conversation where they were born as normal human beings like you, like anyone else, but they have transformed themselves through sheer human effort and krishi. They have become rishi. And I think these lessons of the sages is for us to imbibe, that what we are capable of if we live the way they live. Look at that, Gautama. We only look at the aspect of anger of Gautama, but he knows that his dear. Swami mentions that sentence. He says he always watched over her. He valued the dearest, he valued his word much more than the ashram that he has built painfully, much more than his dear wife, much more than his dear child. He said, I have spoken it, so now I am bound. Because for him, each word that he speaks is more valuable than all the things that he has held dear to him. I mean, what a personality! What a personality was Vishwamitra, that when he walks, he looks at his past and says, that is past, that all belongs to my body. What a personality would have been that Jaknavi, that the Janu says that he just consumed her like a toy. I think it is Rama through these lives is telling us a very subtle lesson, that you can be Rama, but you can also be that, before that, be that Parshurama or be that Rishi.
Beautiful. So Raju, next we will look at this journey today. We have looked is from Ayodhya we came to Kamashram or Shivashram. Then we came to Siddhashram. From Siddhashram he went to Sona, where he told about the story about Vishwamitra, and this is the place where they discussed about uh, Samudra Manthan, and this is the same spot where all the penance happened. And then they come to the city of Vishala, where we just heard the whole story about that. And now from here, they walked up to Gautam Rishi's ashram, where Ahalya Uddhar has happened, and how he blesses them both. And now Ahalya with Gautam Rishi are also invited to Janakpuri. So next episode, hopefully, we will deal with the entry of Janak. So here is the outskirts of Janakpuri, and here they will enter Janak and then Mithila, and we'll know the real purpose will be unfolded why Vishwamitra insists Ram and Lakshman to accompany him for this event. So this is a journey that we have followed. At least pictorially, people can get an idea about the ashrams, the various places. And when I was looking through them, I realized that there are ashrams still there. I am not sure of how they are maintained, but looking at the pictures and all, it looks like. So people who are interested in spiritual exploration, they are welcome to follow this route of Rama along with Ganga and Sona River and Saryu River and all that. Cool. So thank you very much. It was wonderful again. Raju, any final words before we close?
Nothing, but I think it is the journey of Rama along with Vishwamitra to find Sita. I think it is not just his journey, but it's a very subtle journey of each of the human that walks in this earth. He meets all those rishis. He meets all those places of such achievement, places of his past, places where people are cursed, walks are, where demons are encountered. And finally, when you have someone like Vishwamitra guiding you and a personality like Rama, I think each of us would find that supreme wisdom called Sita. Now, our next episode is all about finding that Sita.
So it will be interesting. So thanks again to Bhagwan, gratitude to him, and thank you all viewers for joining us today and taking this journey forward. And hope to see you again next week. Sai Ram. Any thoughts, any questions, welcome to share with us. And this episode will be on the channel for further viewing. Thank you.